I am your host, Nicole Will, and we're so happy you're here as we navigate the world with your aging loved one. We are here to come alongside older adults, family members, and the senior living community as we explore the world of aging and elder care with helpful resources, informative interviews, and approachable conversation. We get to do this together, so join us on our journey, and this is the Will Gather podcast. How do we create time to care for ourselves while we are juggling all of the other responsibilities that we have as a caregiver? My guest today is Elizabeth Miller. She is the founder of Happy Healthy Caregiver. It is a lifestyle website. She has a wonderful podcast which celebrates caregivers and their story, sharing their information. She's built a wonderful community of support and a consulting business where she offers coaching for family caregivers, but not only that, but partners with other businesses and industries that are wanting to make change so she can share their message effectively. Elizabeth's caregiver responsibilities were elevated. She cared for her mom and dad with chronic comorbidities, feeling stressed and overwhelmed, really looked at how can I learn not only more about caregiving, but about myself and the self-care strategies that I need to implement so that I can be a happy, healthy caregiver and pour not only into myself, but others. Today, we talk about what life looked like for Elizabeth when she decided, okay, something really needs to change. The baby steps we can take, where to start, how do we grow in our practice of caring for ourselves, and the reminders that we are a priority. What are the modalities that we can practice in our different caregiving stages, and really pragmatic ways to bring self-care into our days, the practical tools we can implement, and the language that we use, how we communicate with our family members, set boundaries, overcome guilt, and put ourselves first. Here is my interview with Elizabeth Miller. Good morning, Elizabeth. The day is here. We get to do our podcast together. Thank you so much for being willing to join me. I can't wait.
I love it, Nicole. I'm so excited to be on the other side of the mic. It's fun.
It is. I know you are someone I have looked up to for a long time, and I appreciate your abundance mindset. You are always so willing to share, and it's been so helpful for me, and I know that it's really helpful for other people. You're impacting a lot of other lives. So happy
Thank
to
you.
share
I
your
appreciate
work.
that. I find that, the more transparent, the more willing we are to kind of share our personal story, the business side of things. It's like we're helping more family caregivers or helping more people who are carepreneurs like yourself can help more caregivers, which we need more of us.
Yes, we do. I know when we come together, the collective. And so, okay, first, we both had the opportunity to be at the Care Colloquium talking about all of these important care issues and that whole idea of coming together. Okay, I want to hear, what did you think? What did you love? What were kind of your takeaways from that?
Well, I mean, overall, I'm just so grateful that I went and got to connect with people. I mean, there were so many people that I had only met online. Maybe they'd been on the podcast. Maybe we chatted or had a Zoom meeting, and then so many new friends that I met. So it was a different kind of an event. We knew it was going to be. It was a thought leadership, people in the care economy coming together to share ideas. We got to be on a panel next to each other, which was great. We were talking about language and the kind of language that business owners and employers and people we would recommend that people use or not use to be more welcoming to caregivers. So I loved it all. I love the Wine Women in Dementia preview, and meeting Kitty was great. I love the fundraising that we did, all of it. And then I roomed with Heather Zuccali from Brutally Beautiful, who's a bud of mine. And so we had some fun moments too, just being roomies.
Catching up with a girlfriend. That's like my favorite time in the whole world, if I can do that. There was so much lightness, I felt like too. People were there with full open arms to embrace other people and meet, and I just loved the energy, and I'm excited because I think it's going to continue.
Oh yeah, it already has a long tail of just, I mean, it means a lot as a small business carepreneur, when people are liking your stuff and sharing it and engaging with it. It helps more people see it. So I've already noticed a lot of that, like a lot of that, again, mindset of abundance, of people sharing things and engaging. And likewise, like I'm looking to do that too. So uh, we've got a big problems to solve here with the caregiving world and the care economy. So we need more people. Like I said, we're stronger together.
Yep, we are. We are completely. So, your background, you've been in a caregiving role for a long time, which is what you felt called to not only learn, but share what you've learned and how that works. So, first, can you just tell us more about how you got to this place and your mission and what you've been up to?
So I have a personal story of being a family caregiver. I don't have like a date. Like some people have the date that they became a caregiver. I don't have a date. I have an older brother that has a developmental and intellectual disability. So he's been around since the get-go. So I've witnessed caregiving in many ways. And then in my adult life, my parents have had chronic comorbidities where it has just been this like slow mudslide decline. And I'm in my early 50s now, and my parents are now deceased, but it was a lot. It was a lot. And we were sandwiched, my husband and I. He was working and I was working full time. We were in the peak of our earning years and raising middle schoolers at the time when our parents both started spiraling, is what we call it, the spiral year, 2014. And that was really what kind of put us over the edge. We just felt lost, isolated, overwhelmed by our vocabulary and the things that were being required of us, and just never felt like we were doing enough. So I studied broadcast journalism at Penn State, never really used it. I fell into IT and a strategy career. But I've always been doing writing in some shape or form. It has helped me process things. So blogging was my first entry point into this caregiving space. And it helped me see myself more clearly too, like being more transparent. At first I blogged anonymously, and then I thought, well, this could probably help other people. And it was uncomfortable, to kind of put yourself out there. And now I'm like, what do you want to know? I'll pretty much tell you anything. So it's just taking that step, but doing it from a place of like, hopefully this will help make somebody's journey easier. And then over the years have added different things. I'm a certified caregiving consultant. So I help other people, I coach them, and it has helped informed my journey too. And I have a Daughterhood Circle, which is a support group here in Atlanta. I wrote a book called the Just For You Daily Self-Care Journal. And I do a lot of speaking and partnership engagements. And that's primarily the way that I monetize. Like that was a little bit of a struggle too for years. It's like, I really want to do this, but I don't want to do my day job. How do I make money?
Yeah. How is it sustainable? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, so good. When we first connected, I think I reached out to you and I was like, Elizabeth, I've been witnessing all the like good work that you've been doing and seeing how impactful it is for people, and just really wanted to connect and not only have a new friend, but also you've been a mentor to me, which has been, I don't know if you know that, but it's been
You.
so wonderful to have that. Just someone that's gone before and willing to share. And part of what you're doing also came to life is that it's building the community. And when we feel overwhelmed and when we feel isolated, we need people around us. And you also really focused on the self-care piece, from what you've learned and trialed and all of that, which is our focus today, kind of the lens that we're going to be looking at because it's so important. What did life look like for you before you decided that something really needed to change?
Oh, wow. Yes. I mean, it was intentional for sure. First of all, thank you for the rest of what you said. It's like, you don't know whose life you're impacting. And so I think it's important to kind of say that. And I'm sure that you are looked at, Nicole, in your space that way as well. I, the moment for me happened about the prioritizing self-care. I would live in Georgia, in Atlanta area, and my folks lived in Florida. And I would do these drives back and forth for a while before my dad passed away and my mom moved to Atlanta. So I had a lot of time in the car to think, the 6 hours drive, usually alone. And I think it was one of those trips where it became clear to me, like, oh my gosh, if I don't start to figure out how to prioritize my own health and happiness, I'm going to reproduce the same scenario for my kids. And so, coming home from one of those trips, it was like my husband and I, and he was in the same spot, caring for his mom who had lung cancer. And we're like, we got to figure this out. So actually my first site wasn't even called Happy Healthy Caregiver. It was Savvy Sandwicher, because I saw myself squeeze in the sandwich generation. And I was like, I'm going to figure this out. So like you said, it became kind of this game, which was part of the healing during caregiving, where I saw somebody on Instagram on one of those trips down to Florida post, I think she did 100 days of happy. And I thought, well, this is going to help me. I need some accountability. I need a challenge. I'm going to do 100 days of healthy on Instagram. And, not knowing how 100 days is a long time.
It's a long time.
It's a long time. But the point is like, I need to try things on, and this is going to hold me accountable. And I would just start taking pictures of what I was doing for myself that day. And it could have been a little bitty thing, like, hey, I really wanted the nachos at Moe's today, but I went for the salad instead. Or, while my kids are at practice, I'm going to take a couple laps around the track, or listening to a podcast about how I can figure out how to be a better caregiver support in my role. So it looked differently, but then I became kind of like, it's like that law of attraction thing where you start to be intentional with self-care. And I started like hearing things from people, and they would say, oh, meditation or acupuncture. I haven't tried that yet, but different essential oils. And so I just started trying things on and noticing, like, is this working for me? Does it not? And then my definition kind of self-care has evolved over the years. At first it was really focused on physical. It was sleep, or not even sleep. It was eating and exercise at first, because I had morbidly obese parents. So it is still a huge fear of mine to be a large person and have your mobility sacrificed. So I was super hyper focused on that. And then over the years, it has been expanded into, really, I see 8 categories of self-care. Everything from financial self-care, social, we talked about the community, spiritual, and that could be faith-based or it could be nature, and professional, emotional, physical. I'm sure I'm forgetting some, but the idea is like intellectual. So even my words with friends moments in the morning now, it's like I will rationalize them. I'm like, oh, this is intellectual self-care. This is helping me.
The lens. And when you said that, it's so true. It's like when we start to pay attention, then we have the awareness about what that even looks like, things that we might not even have paid attention to in our day, but because of that intentionality, then we go, okay, that's how I'm going to implement that.
And over, practical self-care is one too, because caregivers, our self-care is not, nights out on the town, weekends. We love these things, right? But it's the little things that we can do during the day. And sometimes it's clearing off my desk, or making an appointment, or getting my paperwork together. Those are all practical self-care things, because in my world, it's anything that gives me more energy or peace of mind is kind of my lens for, is this self-care or not?
Oh, completely. Well, you answered my next question, which was like, where did you start and how did you grow in the practice of that? And so for you, it was starting with the challenge and then figuring out, and that is such a good point to make, because not all of us have the same joy in certain self-care things. It might not feel like self-care, right? It's really personal. And so being able to like identify what works for us with the challenge, was there one thing that you really hung on to that made a huge difference for you?
One of the things I think that surprised me was, and I had tried it before, my 100 days of healthy challenge, was I tried meditation many, many times. And if I'm being honest, I don't do it a lot right now, but I'm not actively in a caregiving season, and I'm home. It's a different environment. But at the time, that was something that really, really helped me just take that breath and be present. And I had to kind of play with my schedule to figure out where it sat well. And for me, a really important part about infusing the self-care daily, or at least a few times a week of some really good intense sessions, was to schedule it. And so scheduling it a couple of days a week, I would, most mornings I went to the gym before work. That was kind of my time. My husband did the afternoon stuff while I was managing kids and so forth. But, and after a workout, 10 minutes in the sauna with my meditation on was like a treat.
Amazing.
Amazing treat. Yes. And a guided meditation just through Calm. Like I had to try on some different apps and kind of feel out which one. And I think a lot of people think that they aren't doing it right. And it's a practice. There's a reason why they call it a practice. There is no right or wrong. It's just showing up and putting your intention into it and returning back to your breath. But I can be a person that can I still want to be able to kind of have those moments of sitting. Now I do more yoga and walks outside. Those kind of feed those same moments for me.
Yeah, the quiet and the reflection. Yoga is kind of that same idea too, where they always say it's a practice. We're never going to fully arrive and be perfect yogi, no matter how long we do it. It's that over time and being okay with that. And for us personalities that are like, I want everything perfectly wrapped up in a bow.
Yeah, I want a gold star. I want to check this off.
Yeah.
Even the stages of caregiving, I was like, okay, when can I go to the next stage? What do I need to do to check off to get to that? Like, it doesn't work that way. And a lot of caregiving for me was really about learning how to let go. We do not have a lot of control.
Is letting go a self-care practice?
I think so. Yes. Yeah, because that gives you peace, right? It's peace of mind. It's energy. Like it takes a lot of energy and to kind of hang on to these things. And so when you release it and realize that what you do have control over and what you don't, and of course, I have my serenity prayer right here. It's right on my desk next to me. And that was a big thing for me too. And so these are things that take just minutes a day. It's not like a big commitment. And you sprinkle them in, and they can have a real lasting impact. Gratitude was another one. Like it's, we hear these things and it's like, oh, not this again, not meditation, not gratitude. Well, have you tried it yet? Like try it on, see if it works for you. But it's, sometimes we can feel like there's not a lot going on to be grateful for, but there's always something, there's the weather, a baby's laughter, a blooming plant in your home, a great nice bowl of ice cream, like whatever it is that you can find that can be your thing.
You had mentioned the stages of caregiving. Is it something we could take certain self-care strategies and place them into each stage? I don't know. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I mean, some of the categories I think are really natural to certain phases. Like this is part of the certified caregiving consultant program, like with Denise Brown, there's the stages. And so, you're an expectant caregiver, you're a freshman, you're an entrenched, you're pragmatic, transitioning, and then a Godspeed caregiver. And so if I can see naturally, like in a transition or Godspeed, you might be leaning more heavily on your spiritual self-care. And in the beginning stages, as a freshman and an entrenched one, you might be looking for more of these systems, putting these systems in place and getting your practical self-care and social. Like I think once you want to connect with your community, like nobody's going to understand what you're going through like another family caregiver. And one of the things that I would want people to take away from listening to this is if they're not plugged into some kind of a support, whether it's virtual or in person, to seek it out, even if you're seeing a therapist, even if you think that you don't need it, because people wait too long. And a lot of times I get folks that come to my daughterhood circle and they're already in a crisis mode. And what would have happened? Like what gifts could we have worked on and put in place together up front? And they need, who doesn't like to get just to get out on the town and, we go to a restaurant, we sip on some wine, but also somebody needs you. So even if you're not doing it for yourself, do it for the other people who are going to be there. And as caregivers, sometimes that speaks to us. It's like, oh, it's not just all about me. Right. I can give more to other people, nurture more people.
Yeah. It makes it a little easier. When you talk about the community and being plugged into support and how we need that encouragement, when you were referencing how trying the different self-care strategies or the different modalities, and that I think at times we need permission or other ideas or to be encouraged, I think we might not look to certain strategies because it's not feels natural to us, right? Meditation, for instance. But it is really helpful when you've got someone that's like, oh, I've tried this, or just give it a go. Kind of that outside support and encouragement is just a whole nother reason to not only explore yourself, but then feel like you're on this journey with other people.
Right, right. And sometimes it's like there's so many flavors of something. Like we talked about meditation, but even journaling. Like you might not be the person who's going to sit down and write a whole blog post, but you might like a prompted journal, which is one that I offer, or you might like art journaling, which is, thinking of a power word or maybe a scripture verse, and drawing something out there it can be a form of meditation too. So there's a lot of flavors of different things out there. That is, it's important to kind of try that on. And then there's a lot of things I think as caregivers that is still self-care is like, expanding your care team, dividing up the responsibilities. Like there's some really good tools out there to help you, and not that I can offer some of these too, is that to help you kind of get your ducks in a row, because the goal is to make this a sustainable thing. And so it's like all of these things working together in harmony. I do believe you can be a happy, healthy caregiver, that two things can be true at the same time. It can be a really crappy season and you can be happy, have happy and healthy moments for sure.
Yeah, I love that you referenced we can have two things happen at the same time, because it is
Yes.
so true. And just the permission to know that I can feel sad and I can feel happy and I can find those moments. It's like they can coexist in the same, in the same.
Yes.
Yeah. We talked about, okay, the pragmatic ways of self-care, because at times I feel like we use the word self-care and we talk about these really big, great ideas. And sometimes it can be frustrating because we're like, but I just want practical,
Yeah.
practical tips, which is what you're so good at, is being able to share that and then support people in that. Are there certain tools that you recommend for new caregivers that are like, here's super practical, let's start here? If I don't know where to start, what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, there's first of all, a lot of the certified caregiving consultants offer complimentary coaching sessions. So that's a very practical thing that you can do to just kind of like, here's my situation, and they will listen and validate. And then if you want them to provide some resources and things for your situation, that could be helpful. Some of the early things I think that make a big impact are the family responsibilities, and really putting a lens through of like whose strengths and weaknesses for the caregiving things and the household things. You already had a full plate when you likely became a caregiver for somebody. And it's not sustainable to be a solo caregiver. So it takes time to sit down with that and think about like, well, what do I like to do? What am I good at? What am I not so great at, where I can fill in the gaps? And when I say family, like that could be your family, your friends, your neighbors, your professional care team, your doctors, your hairdressers, all kinds of people. That Amy Goyer during her keynote did a great job, I think, of like really showing what your care team can consist of. And we can grow that. Like it needs some nurturing. But those kinds of things, I think, meeting with an elder law attorney is a great way too. There are lots of times they're plugged in locally to people and they know how to get through the red tape on things. And anything you can do to kind of fast track that, somebody knows. If you're noodling on it for more than like 15, 20 minutes, reach out for help. Like it does not, there's somebody who knows.
Find the answers. It seems like too, everyone has an opinion in our life. I remember when we were caring for my grandma, or just even now with different family dynamics on how things should be done and what we should be doing, even how we should be caring for ourselves, right? We're in a culture where people want to say all the things, and there's a place for that.
Yeah.
There's a self-care strategy that I know you also speak to, which is the setting those boundaries. And how do we do that when everything's coming at us and people are wanting to tell us all the things?
Yeah, I call that shoulding on us. There's SHOULD.
It's so good.
Oh, you should do this and you should do that. And
Yep.
I appreciate you saying that. I'll give it some thought. I think knowing that people mostly mean it from a good intention, I think is just that, yes, it's annoying. And don't take advice essentially from people who aren't in the arena from you. Like if they're not in the mix with you on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, like they don't have a say. And you can even say like, this isn't something that I want to talk to you specifically about, or yeah, we're putting things in place to help with that. Thanks for your opinion. But it is annoying. It's super annoying. And I know even in the healthcare world, like, and if people listening on that, it's like, there's a lot of shoulding that happens there. It's like the things that we could be doing to take better care of our loved ones. And nobody's really asking about us as the family caregiver is like probably one of my biggest pet peeves. We can do better for sure on that. Yeah. So get your people, kind of decide who your people are that you're going to take some information from. And then the rest of them, they don't have a say.
So accurate. And thank you for the specific sentences on the responses. I think sometimes we just want, what can I, to not have that mental energy of thinking of what I'm going to respond. So thank you for that. I think
it's out of our
good
control.
place to start. Yeah.
It's that serenity thing, right? Like it's out of our control what they're going to say and what they're going to do. And just, it's like, oh, there they go. They're going to, or, hey, if you're really looking to help me, here are some things that are on my list. Here are some gaps that I'm really trying to fill right now. That's not the most pressing thing on my mind right now. I'm worried about this over here. And you're super great at finances, tech stuff, whatever it is that's going on. And that's where I think having those conversations early on, a lot of friction happens with our care partner and our family members because we just brush things under the rug. And then the rug eventually just starts like seeping out with so many different things. What if, we just had some of these courageous conversations and pick your moment, pick the right moments to do these things, use some of the tools that are available, like, hey, this fell into my lap and I really think this could be useful for our family to make sure that whoever is getting the best care and we're evening out the workload as best we can.
Yeah.
All of that.
Oh, completely. The other side is also, I think we can struggle with feeling guilty when we take time for ourselves. How do we overcome that of trying to let go some of that guilt?
Yeah. It's going to come up because the guilt comes up because we care about all of these things. We care about our job. We care about our relationships. We care about our kids and our parents and whoever else that we're doing. So it comes from a good place, is that we have the guilt because we care, but recognizing that and reframing it is important. So my saying is that when the guilt creeps up, replace the G word guilt with another G word, grace. Give yourself some grace, because it's a heavy time. It's a heavy season of a lot of things, demanding on you at one time. And you've got to make the best decisions with the information that you have and the capacity that you have. And if you can look in the mirror at night and say, gosh darn it, good job today. You crushed it. Your caregiving cape is dirty and tattered, but you did the best you could today.
Yeah. We did the best we could. And that
Yes.
is when we pat ourselves on the back and take that with us. Caregiving cape. That is, I have not heard that term, but I might use that. It's so good. Just that.
I picture it. Like I used to picture
yes.
it like, oh my gosh, the birds have, crapped on it. And it's, and I used to I wore a lot of cardigans at work, and I was like, my mom cardigan was kind of my caregiving cape. But yeah, it's tattered and it's well used, and, but we need it, right? We need that kind of that energy and that article to kind of keep afloat, and keep doing all those things. And so that's the reminder about self-care. I know Amy Gory does the great thing in your episode. I loved it too. She reiterated the car analogy, but because the mask is it's overused. It doesn't kind of sink in with people. I like another analogy of like the nest of hungry birds where they're all chirping at me,
they want something.
Yes, they all want something. And you're like, oh my gosh. And yet I have to feed myself some worms or I'm not going to keep coming back and keeping all of these things going. And so that analogy served me well, is just knowing that, yeah, I've got to take some moments for myself, or I'm not going to be able to fly. I'm not going to be able to keep
Yep.
going.
Feed other people, pour into other people. And I think those pictures and when we hear other people's perspectives, we can identify with that a little bit more for ourselves and figure out how do we want to move forward and shape our lens. You are just offering so much for people and you really champion the caregiver story, which is who the experts are. You
Yeah.
say that and I love that because it's so true. Unless you're in it and have experienced it, you don't have the right to speak to that. And I want you to tell us what you're up to currently. So you've got your podcast. I want to hear more about that because I want to direct people to be able to go listen to it, and the coaching and in the different ways that you support people and where they can find you and learn more.
Yeah. So the podcast has been going for over 5 years.
Gosh,
And
congrats.
so there's over 150 episodes of the Happy Healthy Caregiver podcast. I can search for it on any podcast platform or listen to it on my website, happyhealthycaregiver.com. And to your point, a lot of it is spotlighting real family caregivers, sharing their caregiving and self-care tips. Because I don't want you to just hear from me. I want you to kind of see life through different lenses and have the ability to try other things on. And I'm learning every single day so many different things, even after being in this business for years. I do offer complimentary coaching sessions, so if people want to check that out. And then ongoing coaching is something that I do offer as well. I will be totally honest, and like, charging family caregivers was not like, it didn't sit well with me. So I have tried some different things. And so where I have landed on the monetization is speaking. So if there's employers out there that would like to have me come in and speak about caregiving and self-care strategies for working caregivers, organizations, women's organizations, caregiver appreciation luncheons, whatever looks like. And then partners. So if there's companies that are trying to get their solution and their services in front of family caregivers, I have a tech background. I'm not afraid to kind of jump in and try it out. I got to like it to put my label on it, my brand on it. It's got to be something that I see that it's going to work for people. But then a lot of them don't have that platform and the email and the podcast to kind of get the word out about that. So collaborations is another way that I help folks. And then the journal, the Just For You Daily Self-Care Journal, makes a great gift for yourself or someone you care about to kind of try on journaling and see, and with that intention of making yourself a priority again. It's written with caregivers in mind, but it's not just for family caregivers. And yeah, the daughterhood.org, see if there's a circle near you. And if you're in Atlanta, check out this one. Yeah. So I probably do I do have my hands in a lot of buckets. I'm also affiliated with a company, Brutally Beautiful Foundation. It's a nonprofit where they do respite retreats for family caregivers. And so I'm happy to be an ally and a program guide with them. And so that is something that we're actively always looking for funds to put in so that we can have more retreats where we do not charge the family caregivers to come. So people can sponsor a couple spots, they could sponsor a whole retreat. And those are amazing because not only is it the days away, but it's also that long tail of like, then you have your community, you have your people. And there's something about those 3 days where you spend with folks in an intense environment. We do have a lot of vulnerability, things that happen, but it's powerful.
Mm-hmm. And Heather's incredible and her mission and her company. And I am so glad you brought that up because what a gift for caregivers and families to participate in that.
Yeah, we need more respite
We
respite
do.
events. Like, it's caregivers need more money, more respite,
Yeah,
more a lot
I
of things,
know,
but
I
it's like
know.
that we kind of pick what we can do and what we can help with. And that one it's kind of selfish in that I feel great after those two. It's like
Yeah.
my heart just is
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
filled up with
Yeah.
TLC. Yeah.
Well, you can see the beautiful things that have come out of it too. So I know, and it's like when you see love in action, and mission in action, then it just makes us want to share it even more. The abundance that you bring in supporting others, and I'm always learning from you, and I'm so happy that we're able to talk today and share it with everybody else and just spread more love out into the world and support. And I just am so thankful for you. So thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you, Nicole. It means a lot to me. My bucket is filled today. So yes, keep us energized.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for listening today. If you enjoyed our episode, please subscribe and give us 5 stars. In all honesty, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening to our episode.